we do both on our industrial side, I'll talk about here in a minute, and the electrical side is all about how can you most efficiently utilize the power that you need to use. And certainly we continue to have significant growth in the power needs across the globe. So, talking about sustainability a little bit, for us as an organization, it certainly starts with profitability, and we recognize that. We're fortunate and pretty proud of the fact that we've been profitable, including this past couple of years during the recession. Leadership and environmental practices, we're very pleased with being recognized for that. And then we really, one of the things we're most proud of, frankly, it's not just the results you achieve, it's how you achieve those results. So you can see here there's a list of some accolades that we've been fortunate enough to receive, and I think the top one is the organization, and that's this ethical company standpoint, 4 years running. So hopefully that continues, and we have no reason to suspect it won't. The industrial sector has 4 business segments. For 2009 reporting, now I'll tell you it's changed a little bit for 2010. We now have combined vehicle group, and as you can see, each of these make up roughly about $6 billion in 2009's earnings. Again, all around systems within the airplane, hydraulics, power and motion control, filtration and fluid conveyance. Truck, no, when we talk truck for us, truck is heavy duty truck is bigger trucks. Transmissions for, and then we have a lot of hybrid technology. Again, not F-150. We're talking about the big fellas here. So if you think about your refuge trucks, you think about the delivery trucks, the UPS, FedEx, those are the type of vehicles that we have hybrid systems for. Okay, and then automotive, Valtrain, superchargers. The new Corvette, the ZR1 has a supercharger from Eaton in it. Audi superchargers are from Eaton. So we have, again, they're about, in many cases, lowering the displacement of the engine, so you get a package. And then obviously some other things within automotive. And then the electrical sector, which is you know, just 5.9 billion. We're broken up into 4 segments as well. And those 4 segments are all around the same industry, right? We're in electrical, power distribution, so taking the power that comes into a building, distributing that power. Could be anything from a building at Purdue, a stadium, an apartment complex, etc. Power quality. So if you're thinking about going to use your credit, where all our information is stored, including all those transactions, what do you think if that would happen? That's pretty bad stuff. So we deal with what's called uninterruptible power supplies, and we have a varying range of those. So a data center, their requirements are it never goes down. So if I have lightning strike and blows up the utility or the transformer, even when we transition to that next, you know, the generators that are providing their, I mean, it can't be noticeable at all. So we have to have the capability to do that. Control and automation, that's typically your industrial control switches, etc. And services and aftermarket continues to grow. This is a field, I think we were maybe a couple $100 million a few years ago, but it continues to expand. It's over $1 billion now. Most of the Western economies have a pretty mature infrastructure. So with that mature infrastructure, you can't just wholesale change that infrastructure, but you have to upgrade. So we have a lot of work going on in that field as well. And you can see broken down, America's about 3.4 billion, and then the rest of the world is 2.5. Just a few product names. If you haven't recognized Eaton in some of the products that we have, there's a list here of a number of products. I won't go through the list. Aeroquip, obviously, Argotech, Cutler Hammer, Road Ranger, Vickers, some familiar names you may have seen in the past. And then one that, if you play golf, you may be surprised at, it's this little one called Golf Pride. Golf Pride, we make golf grips. So about 80%, I think, of the market. So next time you're out on the links and you look down, you may see by Golf Pride. You can say, hey, that's, I don't know about that in power management, but it's a little niche. Small business, but a good business. Obviously, we wouldn't be in the business if it wasn't. So what about making a difference in manufacturing? I really want to talk about something, and I thought it was interesting as we heard about innovation. To me, one of the best ways to get innovation, and it's really one of the cheapest ways, is through your workforce. And how do you engage the workforce so you get their ideas? Because they already got knowledge that in many cases, we're really not utilizing. And we want to share something that we've implemented around senior Kaizen events. So I think it's complementary to what you just heard about Delphi on what we call senior Kaizens in a little more detail. First, let me describe just a few words about Eaton and Lean. And these are my words of just what comes to mind immediately when we think about Lean at Eaton. One, it's a continuous improvement philosophy. When you go to different organizations, Lean means different things. Frankly, it shouldn't. The term was when MIT created. Gosh, how do we coin the term for Toyota's continuous improvement? And that's where Lean came from. So it's really all about continuous improvement. So whatever you call it, it's a philosophy around how do I get better? It's a business system. It's certainly for us a way of how we manage. And we look at it as not only tools to help you see waste, but then tools to either eliminate or drastically reduce that waste. However, one of the things that Eaton has had happen over the years is we've transitioned and we've continued to grow as an organization. And in many cases, that's through acquisitions. And acquisitions have varying levels of Lean deployment maturity, if you will, as well as we've got, obviously, organizations, businesses, and some plants that are different levels of maturity within our company. So when you have that different level of maturity, what happens with the workforce? You have some issues, and what's my job in Lean? How do I execute? And if it's not what I've done in the past, why the hell do I want to do it now? What makes this so much better? I'm really not sure I'm that comfortable with it. And we found that happen. And when I say workforce, by the way, this is not the person that's on the operating floor. Okay, this is as much a leadership concern as it is all the way through the system. And I think that's, obviously, when you have that issue, what happens? I guess you guys know this as well as anybody, right? You should understand that if you have inconsistency, you're not going to get sustained improvement in Lean. You're just not going to have it happen. It's going to try to be pushed through the system from the organization if it's a priority. It's considered an extra item instead of how we do our work. Again, I want to go back to leadership. They're not standardized. People don't want to get them standardized. It's probably me a few years back, and maybe some of you when you think about what it means. And then most importantly, there's a lack of team engagement and understanding. And when you do that, you lose your human capital, your ability to get their understanding and help them improve. So how do we unlock that? Let's talk a little bit about it. We've got what we call a process called senior Kaizens. And these are focused on making sure we align on the big moves. What's the big opportunity for performance improvement? We're not trying to get a $5 change. We're trying to get things that are big deals, big ideas for that organization, that plant, or that business. They're led by business leaders and facilitated by what we call Lean practitioners. We call them senseis, we call them practitioners. Certain areas of the world, senseis isn't a popular term, so we just say practitioners. Now, if you think about business leadership, well, what do I mean there? It's the biggest business leader for that entity. So if it's a plant manager is required to be the leader of this. If it's a business, I expect the business leader to be there. We target plants and product lines that have strategic impacts. If they're not strategically important, we're not going to do it, because this is really about changing that entire model. And we really focus on driving urgency, execution, and verification. And you'll find out a little bit more about that here. They're on site, typically take about a week, but there's a lot of pre-work here. I mean, this is a process where you don't just walk in and say, hey, I'm here, let's go out on the floor and do a Kaizen. You can do that, right? There's Kaizens you can do really quickly. There's other Kaizens that take time. This is a much broader Kaizen. And if you learn more about Kaizens, there's 4 levels of Kaizens we're not going to get into today based on time. So what about the pre-work? Well, first you got to confirm the business case. You really got to understand what the scope is. What are you going after here? And understand what metrics are you trying to impact for that business. Senior sponsor buy-in, we talked about that, but it's really critical that you get alignment with leadership in the organization. Current state analysis, and this is a big deal. If you're talking about immature Lean deployment, obviously you're going to look at metrics, but then you're going to do some verification, and we really make sure we do some detailed Kimball walks before we show up. And we confirm or verify whether the value stream map is accurate, and in many cases, again, this is part of the pre-work, we have to do a full value stream mapping exercise on that business. Because if it's not accurate, if it's not up to date, valid, and really encompasses what it needs to encompass, and we have a lot of them that may be very focused on one piece and they're not really full value streams, we'll have to redo it. It's just part of what we try to do, because we want to get the full value out of this event. We get a lot of resources that we tie up to make sure this is successful. And then we form the team, obviously the champions, facilitators, and then subject matter experts, depending on what kind of process or product we're affecting. When we're on site, full team engagement. It seems somewhat intuitive, but when we say engagement, nobody's got their laptops. If we're there for a week, your laptops are closed. You're not allowed to be using that. You don't walk out when you're on the phone. We take many breaks, but you're expected to engage with that team. Everybody there recognizes, hey, I'm adding value and I'm giving the respect to everybody else in the room. This is something, sometimes you think, oh yeah, we're engaged. We have that participation. This is really, I would share with you and I'd caution you, participation means full engagement and respect for everybody that's in the room. And then as we go through the disciplined approach, team game, the problem solving, we go through prioritizing the corrective actions. And we really have found that if you're able to implement some of these big actions on site during that week, get the resources involved, huge difference. The impact for the organization is enormous. You've got the business leaders there, so there's no question you get the prioritization to get people moving. And there's a number of things you can't do on site. There may be an engineering change that requires testing, et cetera, or other approvals. But there's also a number of things you can, and we found huge benefits. It's interesting, we acquired a business recently, in the last couple of years, and we did a couple of these things. I mean, we were able to get them done right there. And a couple of the people, and these were professional level people, said, man, we've been talking about doing that for 5 years. And they hadn't gotten it done. And we came in, and the team was able to put that as a high-level priority to accomplish big savings. And it's just those layers of clay that we can get into as an organization, and that they had through their corporation that we were able to break down because we had the entire I guess I would say the people that make the decisions, the decision-making team was in the room, so it was a big deal. Then just as important is, how are you going to establish your post-event routine reviews and your summary report? As you can see on the bottom, again, focused on high-impact ideas, focused on the short-term action. So going forward, your post-work, really, you try to make sure that you get something set up. You're not getting everything done in the event, so how do you make sure you have the appropriate work going on for those actions that came out of these events? I don't know about you, but you probably can be familiar or are familiar with situations where you walk out of an event and they say, yeah, we're going to work on that. Hey, who's going to take that? Oh yeah, we've got 5 or 6 things. You come back 6 months, you go, boy, what happened with those? Did we get those done? Ever had that happen? You ever seen people that haven't achieved their commitments? That's one of the things we want to make sure doesn't happen here. Because when we make a commitment in the organization, we're making a commitment on behalf of the organization, on behalf of ourselves. And that's what we try to do with this process. So the follow-up, as we call it, of open issues to closure is enormously important. And then we review the metrics, confirm effectiveness, and this is really inside of our PDCA loop. It's, hey, what did we do? Did it achieve what we expected it to achieve? Okay? So our results thus far, we've done a number of these, and we're really thrilled with the results. Senior managers see the value. They're much more engaged. It gives them a real good understanding, hey, there's a reason we really want to deploy Lean, and I've got a recognition for the value of Lean. And gosh, I just recognized that some of the people in my organization have a lot more knowledge and capability than maybe I thought they did. Prioritize and improvement action, again on high impact and strategically important items. We're going after the big hitters here. We're going after things, sometimes they may have festered for a while for that organization, but we're making some tough decisions, and let's fix the things we think can add the biggest value for the business. Rapid implementation, again, a big deal. Don't let these things linger. Fix the most important things first. Disciplined approach to follow-up. And this last one I think is just enormous. And the increased employee engagement. They start recognizing the value of Lean, and they also start recognizing the value of themselves. And they feel much more empowered, and that could be somewhat of a cliche word, but much more empowered to go out and go, hey, I just saw my business leader in here helping me with a Kaizen. I know this is a great process for me to use, and we've seen a number of these processes just expand and snowball from there. So it's really been a value add. So that first slide I showed of the angst that people have around Lean, then what we like to do when we kick this off is we talk to them about their concern in going into this process. And again, this is the entire team. I want to stress that. It's not just the operators, not just the engineering community, but it's the management, it's the entire organization that happens to be doing the senior Kaizen. And we walk through this. We say, hey, let's explain what's in it for you. And really the me perspective is what we like to call it. If you are effective at deploying this process and effective at putting in this continuous improvement philosophy that we believe within the company is so important. And we go through this and we just kind of share with them, hey, think about this for a second and look at this internally. Continuous improvement, I have an avenue to achieve a competitive advantage, making my facility safer and a better place to work. Sustained standards, standardization promotes predictability, accountability. I know what I'm responsible for, and others know what they're responsible for. Visual controls are in place to help me understand and identify abnormal conditions. And everybody knows where reality is, as we like to call it. Gemba, I regularly go to where the action is and learn from the team, and I stress this one a lot for leadership, the engineering community, and the professionals. It's very important to be out where we do the work. And then last is all around teamwork. There's no confusion because we collectively all pull in the same direction. So we try to put this up and have some discussion at the beginning of the week, and then we put it up at the end of the week, and we go through each of these boxes and we say, okay, you feel like this is possible? And we've never had an issue. And by the way, we do a confidential survey from all the participants asking them, do you really believe Lean can work for you? Do you believe it's the right thing for your organization? Because we're going to do it because that's the way this company operates. And we have not gotten any negative feedback. A couple hundred different individuals doing the survey. So it's really pretty positive. So then just the last piece of reflection I'd like to share is for all of us to think about when you go forward, whether you're doing a senior Kaizen or whether you do a process improvement within your organization or as a student as you look at your life a little bit. Prioritize certainly makes life a little better. Sometimes we lose sight of that. We get all these things coming at us. Understand what your major needs are and obviously try to address them. Kaizens can be huge, huge benefit. Big or small, doesn't matter. Really can help accelerate improvement. You can put them in a place that allows them to be part of the philosophy and culture of the business. No matter what your role, engage the team. And this is sometimes tough because this is the one we get involved in our world that you're not taking advantage of. And that's what I'd stress here. And that's from the innovation standpoint, I really want to poke this one again. You have almost a free resource, and that's your employees. The people around you that understand the business. And believe me, there's been a number of times that those folks can come up with the type of innovation that can take you to the next level and really what we consider breakthrough. And then I love quotes, so I'm going to throw a couple out here. Okay? None of us is as smart as all of us, and it's not what you can do, it's what you can get done. Okay? That's it. Thank you. Any questions?